Okay, so when class ended yesterday, we were talking about what was going on with the Korean War, how it all came to an end. Well, even before the Korean War, the United States went through another Red Scare. We went through a Red Scare after World War One. Now here we are in the 1940s, late 1940s, early 1950s, and we're going through another Red Scare. This one, though, is a little more valid than the one that went on after World War One. In World War One, you had the strikes that were going on. You had general strikes that were going on in the northwestern part of the United States, and that was a tactic commonly used by communists in Russia. And so, because of that association, boom, immediately people are thinking, oh, that's going to happen here. Now, here we are in the late 40s, early 50s, and there's there's a lot more factual uh, goings on between communism and people here in the United States. Now, to start, you have the HUAC, which was created once again. It was created back during the right after World War One, the House Un-American Activities Committee, and what happens is you have Alger Hiss, a employee of the government, and Alger Hiss is said to have given a self-proclaimed communist spy secret documents. Well, right away, that has people up in arms. In September 1945, a Soviet clerk defected and had documents saying that the Soviets were trying to infiltrate U.S. organizations and government agencies. And so everyone once again is really on edge. Well, things really come to a head with uh, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Ethel Rosenberg meets Julius Rosenberg at a meeting in New York for communists. It was a communist organization, and they meet at this meeting, and they strike up a relationship. They get married. Well, it turns out that Ethel Rosenberg's brother was a scientist on the Manhattan Project. Julius Rosenberg gets his brother-in-law, convinces his brother-in-law to get him secret documents from the Manhattan Project. Well, Julius's brother-in-law does this. Julius Rosenberg thinks that he's giving these documents to a Russian spy. Turns out it is an undercover agent, and um, and of course he's arrested. Now, Julius Rosenberg will not give up any more information about who was he actually going to give these to, what level of Russian government were they a part of. He won't give up this information. So the American government, who's prosecuting Julius Rosenberg, tells him, we're going to charge your wife with treason just like we're going to charge you, because she knew of this and she did nothing about it. So you need to, but if you tell us who this information was meant for, then we'll only charge you and not her. It's almost like you have Julius Rosenberg on one side, you have the U.S. government on the other side. They're both poker players, and they're trying to call the other's bluff. Um, it's like Julius Rosenberg has a real good hand, and the United States is saying, well, we have a better hand, so you just better go ahead and lay down your cards and let us win. So the government is saying, we're going to charge your wife with treason, so you just need to come clean and tell us who this information was really intended for, and then we'll let her go. Well, here's the thing. Julius is even a better poker player. He calls their bluff. And even he knows that if his wife is found guilty of treason, she's going to get the electric chair. And the United States, and he doesn't think the U.S. government will do this. Well, they go ahead and they charge both of them with treason. They have the hearing. They are both found guilty, and they both die. It's not found out until years later Ethel Rosenberg had absolutely nothing to do with this situation. That Julius Rosenberg could have said something. He didn't think the federal government would go through with what they did. Ethel Rosenberg, she could have stepped up and she could have said something, but she was staying true to her man, and she decided, well, if they're going to kill him, if they're going to execute him, they're going to execute me. Now, isn't that true love? I mean, really. I cannot think of another situation that I know of where true love is any more evident. Or some might call it stupidity, but nonetheless, that's what happened.
June 19th. In 1862, slavery was banned in all United States territories. On this day in 1964, the Senate passed the landmark Civil Rights Act, despite the efforts of its opponents, who had led a filibuster for 83 days on the Senate floor. In 1977, Pope Paul canonized John Newman, a 19th century Philadelphia bishop, as America's first male saint. And on this date in 1953, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed. They were accused of passing atomic secrets to the Soviets. Many people believe they were railroaded by a government obsessed with communism. More than 40 years later, it was revealed that Julius was a spy, but that Ethel may have been innocent. And that's this history.
Warden Deno said earlier that the executions would begin at 8 p.m. daylight time. That's within the next 15 minutes. We're told that the president and attorney...
This is silly, please. I can't.
Ethel Greenglass was born to a Jewish family in New York City, September 28, 1915. After failed attempts at becoming an actress and a singer, Ethel took a secretarial job and attended meetings of the Young Communist League.
During the 1920s and 1930s, during the Great Depression, particularly in the 1930s, communism wasn't this scary thing that it was after World War II. So a lot of people had turned to it as a political ideology because capitalism seemed to have failed during the Great Depression.
It was at these meetings where, in 1936, she met Julius Rosenberg. 3 years later, they married. They would later have 2 sons, Robert and Michael. In 1942, Julius joined the Soviet Union's secret agency, the KGB. With the help of Ethel's brother, David Greenglass, who was working on the Manhattan Project, the creation of the atomic bomb, he was able to hand over many top-secret files regarding it to the Soviets.
David Greenglass, his brother-in-law, is the main agent because he was at Los Alamos. He was working on the Manhattan Project and the atomic bomb. And so Julius approached his brother when his brother-in-law, when he got transferred to New Mexico, where Los Alamos is, and basically encouraged him to hand information over to him, which he would then pass on to the Soviet Union. I think David Greenglass actually handed it over to somebody else. I think it was Harry Gold was the spy's name. But Julius was sort of his connection to these Soviet agents.
In 1949, just 4 years after the United States tested their first atomic bomb, the Soviets tested theirs. This shocked the United States government, believing correctly that the only way the Soviets knew about this was from the inside. After a series of arrests, the paper trail led to the Rosenbergs in 1950. After denying it, Greenglass relented, stating that both Julius and Ethel were involved. The trial began March 6, 1951, with Judge Irving Kaufman presiding and Assistant U.S. Attorney Roy Cohn as the prosecutor. On April 5th of that same year, Judge Kaufman sentenced the Rosenbergs to death.
People had suspected for a long time that the government had accused, when they catch these spies, they accuse Ethel as well, hoping that Julius will confess. But he doesn't confess, and they basically have to go through with it and execute both of them because he basically called the government's bluff.
Despite appeals of mercy ranging from Albert Einstein to the Pope, on June 19, 1953, Ethel and Julius Rosenberg were executed by electric chair at Sing Sing Correctional Facility in New York. The execution date was pushed back 2 days for the Jewish Sabbath, as well as the Rosenbergs' 14th anniversary.
Julius was the real ringleader, and it was basically his idea, and David went along with it. Ethel Rosenberg really knew what was going on, but she did not participate in any of it, and that's what's really coming out right now in the last month.
Are you stupid or something?
Okay, then we move to Joseph McCarthy. Joseph McCarthy is a U.S. Senator, and it's almost as if McCarthy is some adolescent starving for attention, so he just starts making stuff up, almost like the boy that cried wolf. Once he cried wolf and he got all that attention, he thought, well, I'm going to do it again and again, and I'm going to get more and more attention until people stop believing him or began to really question him. Well, what happens is McCarthy is giving a talk to a women's group. I want to say it's like in Massachusetts or Washington, D.C., somewhere in that area. And during this talk, he holds up a piece of paper and he says, ladies, in my hand I have a list of government employees that are working with the State Department. Now, the Department of State, their main job is keeping up foreign relations with other governments. And so McCarthy is saying that he has a list of communists that are being employed by the State Department. Well, it doesn't take long for word of this to get out, and immediately McCarthy becomes the focal point. And it's almost like the more attention that is given to him, the broader, the wider the scope of this story gets. And McCarthy starts accusing more and more and more people of being communists. And eventually it gets to the point where the federal government decides, well, we need to have a hearing. And so it's in the next video of notes that we're going to have, that I'll talk more about the hearing that does McCarthy in, and then we'll watch another video, one or two, that kind of show the lengths to which McCarthy went to.